The book is full of line drawings like this. Kind of an ugly thing. Maybe mind flayer some sort, or I'm not sure exactly what. There are a lot of monsters in this book, so you can check that out when you pick up your copy. I encourage you to do that. So a little bit about magic. Heroes can cast magic spells and call on miracles. Magic and miracles are unlike other actions. Casting magic and calling miracles is a mini game that has different rules than any other action. This not only gives magic and miracles a different feel, it keeps magic unpredictable and dangerous and makes miracles hard to call upon. Preparing a spell. The conjurer explains what spell they are casting to the Rabble Rouser. The Rabble Rouser then decides if the spell is targeted against a creature, an effect, or a beneficial spell with friendly targets. This exchange will help the Rabble Rouser decide on how many resistance dice to roll. Now there are, in the back of the book, there are scrolls and there are spells and stuff like that that can be done that way, but one of the coolest things about this is how you can kind of come up with your own spell, and as long as you can explain it well, as stated here, and make the Rabble Rouser understand, you can come up with magic that will help you in the moment, rather than being tied down to specific spell text in some other rule books. Resistance. Most enemies or heroes resist spells with 1d6 roll, whereas others have a higher magic resistance and will roll more dice. Spells targeted against the environment instead of an enemy generally roll 1d6, but the Rabble Rouser may decide to roll more dice depending on factors within the spell area. You can power up a spell. When a conjurer casts a spell, they must decide the power level. So the power level can equal 1d6 or 3d6. This means the conjurer has to choose whether to roll 1, 2, or 3 dice. The caster must equal or beat the resistance number of the highest resistance die roll of the target. The resistance dice will always be rolled and revealed first before the conjurer decides on the power level. If the highest resistance number ends up as a 1, the conjurer automatically casts a spell. So successfully casting a spell. The highest die rolled on a power level roll must equal or beat the highest resistance die. A power level of 6 will beat a 6 roll by the Rabble Rouser on the resistance die. The potential problem is that if any of the power level dice rolled are 1s, that means the spell fails automatically unless the conjurer takes Spellburn. And Spellburn is very interesting. Rolling more power level dice has a greater chance of equaling or beating a resistance roll, but also gives you a better chance to roll a 1. If the resistance number you need to equal or beat is low, consider rolling 1 or 2 dice instead of 3. Now, Spellburn is a personal sacrifice. Manipulating the mystic energies is difficult and can be outright dangerous. A roll of 1 when casting a spell means the energies do not manifest, but a conjurer may want to sacrifice life force to continue to cast a spell. A spell can still be cast by the conjurer taking a strike of damage for each 1 rolled. Otherwise, the spell fails. Excuse me. Thank you. Karma cannot be used to boost power level, spell rolls, or resistance rolls, but a hero die can be used to reroll any single power level die, including 1. There's also a section here on conjurers can attack multiple enemies with a spell. You can attack up to 6 enemies, but the strain is great. Conjurers must anchor a spell to maintain it. Seems like this is a little bit like concentration in D&D. And then you have to be able to help the Rabble Rouser understand the spell being cast. So try not to make your spells too complicated, basically. There are, like I said earlier, there are scrolls that offer spells from all circles of sorcery, which limits you less. So you can see there, you can read there that once you use the scroll burns up, it cannot be used again. and the scroll is cast at a preset power level. A 2d6 ones are re-rolled. Conjurers, hedge wizards, and scalds use scrolls. And quickly wrapping this up, heroes with a devout inclination can call on miracles. You can ask a favor of your divine patron, but the likelihood the deity will directly intervene is small. And it tells you there how many dice to roll and how that works. Miracles can only be asked for once per situation, and since the gods can be arrogant, no karma may be used. Miracles cannot be used to harm another being or cause damage. That's really important to remember. Don't forget, the hero die can be used to reroll any single prayer die. And once again, rolling a 1 will automatically end your chance of a miracle. However, like Spellburn for conjurers, offerings made to a deity by heroes with the devout inclination will receive a blessing to reroll all the dice for a prayer once per day. And the Rabble Rouser will stipulate whether the offering is sufficient to the request. Calling on miracles and the Rabble Rouser. Deities play their own games and rarely turn their eye on mortals. This means miracles will rarely happen, even with their most devout followers. When you ask your God for a miracle, clearly explain what you intend so the Rabble Rouser can decide on the number of aloofness dice to roll as resistance to the prayer, or even if your deity would grant such a miracle. The Rabble Rouser judgment is final. Remember that the gods will only ever grant one miracle a scene and or situation and will ignore any requests that break this rule. So buy your copy, and I'm going to move on to a read-through of our first EZD6 session.